I am so pleased to welcome back my next guest. It's congressional candidate, family values, mom, hero. What can I say about Christine Bish? Welcome back to the show.
Oh, thank you for having me and all of those kind words. And I'm a little more humble than that, but you're making me blush. Thank you.
You did a lot. We've all heard that Eagle Ed Martin has been now appointed as the special counsel to investigate Shifty Adam Schiff and all of his mortgage shenanigans. People who missed your last appearance on the show might not be aware that it was you, Christine, who initially uncovered all of this, and now it is moving forward. So it's an exciting moment, isn't it?
It is. I've been working on this for the better part of 4 years, and I've had a lot of people snicker in the background, and every once in a while I'll get a clown. Yeah, Nick, you know who I'm talking about, who will say, "Hey, Chris, how's that investigation into Adam Schiff going? You getting anywhere on it? Anybody paying attention?" And just naysayers, that negative people who just. And in California, I kind of get it. Voters here are really defeated because of Gavin Newsom, and we can go on to him later. But Republicans, we have a growing number of unaffiliated voters. They're not Republican or Democrat. They just want to vote. And like in my district alone, it's over 22,000 people who won't even declare a party. They just want to keep their right to vote and not be bothered with the drama. But
well, how does that affect you?
I feel vindicated.
They can't vote in primaries, or what does that do to the? I think a lot of people might.
The only primary you can't vote in as a NPP, not affiliated with the party, is the presidential primary.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
But those naysayers can go, kind of pound sand, because we've got Pam Bondi has appointed Ed Martin as the special attorney. It's interesting how little mainstream coverage this is getting. It looks like MSNBC is saying stuff, but it's not like it's in the Washington Post and all the. If this was somebody investigating Trump, it would be all over the place.
You know what? It's fine. The publicity, the people who are political junkies, if you will, or just informed, they're not getting it on mainstream media. They're on shows like yours. They're on with Bannon or Joe Rogan. They've given up on the mainstream media just because of all of the Democrat antics. A lot of people are even tired of Newsmax and Fox News. They just prefer not to be bothered. So
well, it's so slanted, right? I mean, I agree with what you're saying, but still, it is quite telling to see that it's not being picked up. I mean, this is part of the effort, I think, to suppress whatever it is that Ed Martin is likely to find. And of course, it's going to rely very heavily, I would think, on the evidence that you initially uncovered. Can you say anything? Do you know anything about this beyond what's been in the news?
What I can tell you is from my own personal knowledge. Now, it's pretty widespread what documents I gathered, what I did. I've made no secret of the public records. But what I have said repeatedly is I don't have subpoena power. And the grand jury, Ed Martin, I've heard his name before. I don't know him personally, but from what I understand, he's a good man. He's an honest man. But he has subpoena power. And the documents that I provided that launched this whole thing, the mortgage records, property tax records, voter registration, these are all things that he has subpoena power. He can get things that I can't, like the applications for those mortgages. There's two different forms they're going to get. They're going to get the 1008, which is the application form, and or 1003 is the application, 1008 is the underwriting package, if you will. Right. So they're going to see a lot there. They can subpoena driver's licenses and and school records for his kids. What address did you list as the primary residence? So he has access to stuff I could only salivate over on this case.
Right. So, like you and I, or anybody, we have access to certain public records, the
Right.
mortgages, the deeds, etc. That stuff is available in public databases that anybody can go to. But as you're saying, as the special prosecutor, Ed Martin is going to be able to not only subpoena the records that you're talking about, he can subpoena Adam Schiff himself and ask him questions under oath, can't he? Can
Oh,
indict the guy.
yeah. And if Adam Schiff has any buddies that of his that are still practicing attorneys that are any good, they will tell him just a few keywords: shut the F up. Don't say anything. Take the fifth, man, because I am telling you, without all the subpoena documents, I am absolutely convinced this guy is burned. He is burned 6 ways to Sunday, because either we've got him on mortgage fraud, which is being addressed in the grand jury, but the catch 22 is if he says I didn't lie on these mortgage papers, just like he
Oh,
did
yeah.
in that newspaper or the video clip you were playing of
Yeah.
him up here in the area with the NBC affiliate, where he said, I made no secret that I was moving to Maryland. Okay, dude, then please explain to me why you think you could represent California, why you think you could be registered to vote in California. And that's still not a get out of jail free card for you or your wife, because she was still registered to vote in California and took her primary residence in Maryland. And Wifey Poo could have done that. And where he stayed, California, put his primary residence as from the rentals that he had up to the condos. But the guy is slippery. He should be hanging out with Maxine Waters. I checked this out for Joe Collins. Maxine can cover her trail, man. She is just a boss for committing these type of games. But he had to
Um,
do the Adam show. Should have been hanging out with Maxine.
It's interesting that they are also sort of tying this with Tish James. I mean, that's a separate issue, but obviously both are accused.
It was the timing. Okay,
Yeah.
so the man who did the Tish James, Sam
Antar, yeah.
Antar, I spoke to him for the first time last week.
Careful
And
with him.
huh?
Got to be careful with him.
Oh yeah. But you know what? He is the first person that I have met that processes data like I do in my brain. He latched onto something and went. I latch onto something and I went for it. And it's funny because we had never met or even spoke until last week. And when you look at the way he puts together the data and finds data, he has different resources than I do. But we both went down, and it was happening at the same time. He
That's
just
very
knew how to get it
interesting.
out there before I did.
Right.
But it's because I submitted this last October to the House Ethics Committee where it sat. And then I had done it the year before in 2023 where it just sat. And it was I just didn't know to go beyond the House Ethics Committee, where I thought maybe under Republican Speaker this would have gotten taken care of. But hey, my
No.
bad. We all have to learn. And so, I went the way of submitting it to FHFA, and, Director Pulte this guy is sharp.
He
He picked
is.
up what I was putting down and moved with it.
I really do like Bill Pulte. He was on Laura Ingraham last night. Charlie Hurt was filling in, and he was talking about all of this. It's interesting. Adam Schiff, he's saying Donald Trump's assault on the truth means we can't trust what his administration says. But obviously this is political rhetoric. I heard that Schiff is hiring, I think, Preet Bharara, but when I Google that, I'm not seeing anything about it.
You know what? I have no idea, but he's still doing interviews right now. He's up in Lake Tahoe, tooling around up there, looking at the clarity of the water. maybe I should jump in the car and drive up to Tahoe and say, hey, Adam, you want to talk about this?
Good
I got
skiing
the
in
goods
Lake
on you,
Tahoe.
man.
Yeah, so AI
But this
overview,
wasn't Donald Trump. Let's square this
right,
away right from my mouth to
right.
your screen. Donald Trump had zero to do with this. I started this in 2020, right? Trump wasn't reelected. I got my own evidence on that. And we can do that another show. That's some interesting stuff. But
Yeah.
at least in Sacramento. But I did this. It started with me looking for Doris Matsui. I was running against Doris, and Adam Schiff's name kept coming up. That's how this happened. It had nothing to do with Trump. It had to do with my congressional race. And I've never run against Adam Schiff. He was in Southern California. I'm in Sacramento. Never even considered running for U.S. Senate. So when we start looking at all the facts, there's no way he can pin this on Trump. This is a little, overweight, cancer surviving grandma in Sacramento that's got your number, dude.
Well, he's doing that obviously because it gets people's attention and it's something that he can pop off about. But I think Adam Schiff is one of the most dishonest guys I've ever seen.
Oh, yeah. No, he spent most of his high school career in a locker somewhere, either in the hall or the gym.
Yes, he's an absolute watermelon head. There's no doubt about that. Now, the other thing is, we had some pretty interesting Adam Schiff graphics. Everybody knows he's a watermelon head, but also it's not just the address problem that he's got, because he also was basically refinancing. He's doing all kinds of things that I think will probably come out in this Ed Martin investigation. He's refinanced the mortgage several times. It's unclear who's paid it off. Now, this goes to what you were saying earlier. We can see the mortgages and the refis, but we don't know who was paying them. And Ed Martin should be able to find that out. If it turns out that some third party is paying off his mortgage, wouldn't that give rise to questions of bribery and all kinds of other secondary
campaign
possible?
finance, depending on who it came from. And the reason I'm a mortgage professional, been, in the mortgage industry, real estate industry, and I can tell you from personal experience, the mortgage company or the servicer, the company that collects the payments, they keep track of that stuff. Because I've ordered them before for my clients, where I have to prove this happens a lot where other people make the mortgage payment. Say one of my adult kids, because I have 4 houses, one of my adult kids is living in the house. And I tell, my son, okay, you just make the mortgage payments and everything's good. And if you can show that you were making the payments, then we could possibly just refinance the house, but you were actually making the payments. Nobody tracks who's making the payments. Right. Unless you're doing a mortgage and you want to prove that this person's been making the payments. So with that, I would say there is a paper trail if there was anything illegitimate or, shady about who was making the payments. We're going to know.
Even if
Ed Martin's going to know.
Yeah, Ed Martin's going to find out. So let me just ask you about this, because I don't know if you've looked into this information specifically. This is my information, and my opinions don't reflect on you. I'm not trying to do anything like that.
Just ask away.
Yeah, the records that I saw indicate that in 2003, he bought this Maryland home with a $610,000 loan from something called B.F. Saul. And then 6 years later, he's refinancing that for $570,000 with Quicken. And then again, a year later, he's refinancing for $563,000. It's all this stuff, but the refi, there's no clear record of how these earlier loans were paid off. Is this unusual, frequent activity in your view?
Well, if you're the average person and interest rates are going down and you're just trying to cut $100 off your mortgage, $200 off your mortgage, then you do it. This guy's worth millions. There's no reasonable explanation to do this. Now, see, I have a similar case on Doris Matsui, okay, who's also, has a residence here, but she really lives in Maryland, and a similar story, but hers is a little more shady. Her house in Maryland was actually in foreclosure twice. I want to say it was 1987 and 1989 when her husband was the sitting representative. And they had to borrow money on his dad's house here in Sacramento. And it's funny because I was, like I said, investigating her in 2020, and I have a big fat file on her too. But the foreclosure notices, as opposed to the normal public records, were actually archived. I had to order those foreclosure notices out of archives. Yeah.
Is she doing something to make that happen? I mean, using her power in Congress to hide stuff?
And it was probably her late husband.
Wow.
But now Doris has all kinds of other issues, and she was doing the same thing. And just crazy what's going on with Doris Matsui. That you'll get the details on that soon. We're going to stay focused, and I will get all of that submitted as well. Now, I actually filed a lawsuit, I think it was in 21 or 22, I think it was 21, against the California Secretary of State over Doris Matsui. And what I had alleged is, look, here's all of the evidence that she's a resident of Maryland. I even got a copy of her auto insurance, which was to the Maryland house, her driver's license number for her and her late husband back to the 80s when they moved to Maryland. So they had established everything there. And I wasn't suing Doris. I sued the Secretary of State saying, hey, you need to investigate this. And we got all the way to court. I had standing. And then in the end, the judge said, well, you didn't serve the Secretary of State correctly, so we're going to dismiss it.
Oh, boy. They are sticklers for that sort of stuff. It's true.
Yeah. And then, of course, the attorney that was representing me in that passed away.
Oh, boy.
And
court is complicated.
Court is complicated. So,
but where's Doris? She's got her own children's book.
Oh, how frightening. Well, Doris eloped in 2020. She, her husband had passed away, and her best friends, she passed away. So the Roger Sant is her new husband.
Oh.
And Doris and Roger, they ran off, those crazy kids, back on Easter vacation of 2020, and they got married. And of course, we were in lockdown here. The only thing open was Walmart. Do you know, I went and bought her a cute little negligee and a congratulations card for her wedding, and I sent it to her house. Do you know I didn't even get a thank you card?
Huh. You sent it to her. Wow. So you're really, it's like a troll campaign. That's pretty funny.
What's that?
Yeah, look, you've really got a good troll campaign going against her. That's pretty funny. Here in Sacramento, they're saying she gets married in a virtual ceremony in 2020.
Weird, huh?
Well, everybody's on to her, obviously. The Sacramento...
No. They are not on to her.
Oh.
Roger Sant owns a company. Well, we're going to go forward and backwards a little, flashbacks, if you will. Her new husband, Roger Sant, Doris and Bob were best friends with Mr. and Mrs. Sant. And they were all into the Smithsonians and all this other stuff. So his wife passes away. Her husband passes away. They end up getting married. But they've had this long-term, very close friendship. Well, Roger Sant made his millions in the European energy market. Company was called AES. Lot of money in Ukraine energy.
Oh, boy.
So when I started digging into that, AES was the beneficiary of a lot of money through USAID.
Oh, boy.
And Doris is on the Energy and Commerce committees.
Oh, boy. Wow. Yep. That's a big deal.
That is a big deal.
Huh.
Yes.
This is amazing. So here's AES, American Utility and Power Generation Company. Is that
Yep.
it?
Yep.
Huh.
That is it.
Oh boy, Christine, it's so crooked there in Congress, isn't it? So you know what? They get married.
I'm
That
picking up
means
on that.
they can't testify against each other. Sometimes those things are done.
Sometimes those things are done. And, you know, Tom Fitton was following Doris back in when Bill Clinton won.
Mm-hmm.
And they were having money troubles, right? The house is in foreclosure twice. They're going to Bob's parents or dad to bail them out. And then Doris volunteers on the Clinton transition team. They fall in love with Doris and she's hired. So then it comes out in 2000, and this was thanks to Tom Fitton, who he was chasing down the Chinese money laundering. And
Right.
there was a headline from Tom Fitton that said, you know, Doris Matsui, she was the mastermind behind the Chinese money laundering.
Really?
Yeah. Go check out Tom Fitton and all
Judicial
of his
Watch.
stuff. Judicial Watch going after Doris Matsui. And like I said, he didn't get to depose her until 2000.
It's funny.
Kind of cool.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So let's see. Here's Doris Matsui, Judicial Watch. It's such a twisted web. Breaking news and photos on the Hill, 2005. You know, we just had a story here that was saying, what's her secret? She just won her 10th full term in Congress. What's her secret? It's not just having a safe seat. I mean, that's what I meant when I said,
a safe seat.
Huh.
I think it's like 22 points ahead of the Republicans. So when we had our last redistricting, Sacramento area, you know, it's Ami Bera, the guy I'm running against. He's the junior representative. And so, you know, when they redid the lines up here, redistricting, regerrymandering, they put Doris in the safer seat. Because this seat, we are in target range. The seat that I am in is very winnable. But honestly, a lot of it has to do with money. It's just being able to get voter contact. And the truth be known, all of these investigations, me tracking down Adam Schiff, which has nothing to do with my campaign, but it's the right thing to do. It takes away from me going after Ami Bera.
Right. But I think it is helping
I have to do what's right is right.
Yes, and I think it's helping to build your political clout and your reputation as someone who hopefully will be in Congress soon. I hope that people will go to bishforcongress.com. Even if people aren't voting in Sacramento, they can still donate to the campaign and help Christine to win. It's important that we have honest people who are fighting in Congress for justice and the law and all that. So you're talking about redistricting. That's something else that's been coming up. We've been hearing.
Oh, yeah, I'm ready to lawyer up on that one. I've got a
tell us about that.
Meetings. Okay, so California is we have what's called a Citizens Redistricting Committee, and you apply for the privilege of being on the redistricting committee. Actually, you can ask for one of the committee members to come and be a guest speaker at your event to talk about how they process the data, to draw the lines, that sort of thing. It's supposed to have the appearance of being very nonpartisan. So now what we've got is Gavin Newsom. He's hiding some of the refugees from Texas, from the Texas legislature. It's a sanctuary city in California. All of California is sanctuary state, sanctuary city. So, like the Hunchback in Notre Dame, we've taken in some of those Democrats from Texas. But anyhow, part of our state constitution is that we have this Citizens Redistricting Committee that's supposed to be nonpartisan in drawing the lines. Well, Gavin Newsom, he wants to be president, and the only way that's going to happen is if he sandbags the Trump administration for the final 2 years. Just like they were successful in doing last time. Well, so he's justifying saying, well, if Texas redistricts, then we're going to, ignore the state constitution. We've got the legislators, the ones that approved children to prostitute themselves. Yeah, that group of bandits. They're supposedly the ones that are trying to gerrymander the district to get rid of the 9 remaining Republican representatives in California. And they're justifying it because another state is doing it. It's like,
Tit for
I was
tat,
drinking behind the wheel because the guy in the parking lot at the bar was drinking behind the wheel too.
Wow. Yeah, but
That
it is
made
very
it okay.
retaliatory, right? It seems like a tit for tat
It
kind
is.
of move.
It is retaliatory. He has, political aspirations before the complete destruction of the state of California. Thank goodness that he has a term limit, just like president has a term limit. We don't have to deal with this fool anymore with our gerrymandered districts here in California. But with everybody moving, and here's the thing, in the 2020 census, they weren't sending people door to door like they are supposed to count people. They were using other methods because of the unconstitutional lockdown. Based on just the real estate, how people were already fleeing the state because of, the socialist things going on, I think we should have lost 2 congressional districts or 2 seats in the 2020. So I'm saying, one, you're violating the law by wanting to redistrict and ignoring the redistricting committee. And their big target in California is Kevin Kiley, who's in the neighboring district from me. So, that is a big push for Gavin Newsom, because him and Kevin have locked horns. I've locked horns with Newsom. And he wants to prevent, picking up more seats and holding on to the 9 seats that we have. And he's willing to break the law to do it. He even had Aunt Nancy, crawl out of her bottle to come up here and hang out with those Texas refugees.
Wow.
But Kevin as an incumbent, I'm just going to use this because we're neighbors, and Tom McClintock, we're neighboring districts. For those 9 incumbents and then all of the Republican candidates like myself, I believe there's a breach of contract in what they are doing. I'm running my race based on the congressional lines that are set under the California Constitution. And by them taking this move, they're in breach of contract. I had 10 years to run within these congressional lines, as does the incumbents. And we know in 2030 there is redistricting. We also know, based on the numbers, people leaving California and the migration from Southern California to, up to Bakersfield and up here in my area to Sacramento, that the lines will be different. And I expect us to lose at least 3 congressional seats, possibly 4. And if you don't believe me, talk to U-Haul.
Yeah, no, those types of metrics are very telling. And what about this? We heard 2 days ago that Trump is calling for a new census to exclude undocumented immigrants. I
am. This is so cool that he is doing this. And so he doesn't want to include the undocumented people. And I'm just going to go ahead and say it. This is a really just slick move on his part. So, and I agree with him, because I have been saying, if Newsom wants to redistrict and he wants to violate the Constitution, you can't use the 2020 data. It was flawed anyhow. So we will have to have a new census, a new federally conducted census. And if we do that, I don't know, maybe they'll hire a bunch of ICE agents to go knocking on doors, say,
Dean
hello.
can go do
Hello,
that.
I'm here with the census, and just ignore the ice badge. We just want to count who's in the house. Um,
Well, I mean, listen, it's a good point. I don't think we should be having illegal immigrants count towards who gets to vote. I mean, this is insane. California, no other country in the world allows, I mean, if you went to Japan or Mexico or anywhere, France, and just stay there illegally and start trying to vote, they would bounce you right out of there. There's no doubt.
well, okay, well, here's a little misinformation. The census is not just about voting. It's about who lives in the area and it's supposed to be divided up by population. So if I've got 895,000 people in my district, and it's head count because, they're counting children as well, and they can't vote. So it's not about voting. It's about population. So the Democrats are arguing, well, the illegal immigrants are part of the population. Well, we don't even know how many there are for sure. 2020 was a crapshoot in California because they couldn't even get the data. But now the only way to do this is a door knocking census. You can't even estimate this now, especially with what's going on with Trump, because they're cutting off Medicaid. They're cutting off SNAP. They're cutting off all of the federal dollars that would fund illegal aliens, regardless of how long they have been there. So that's going to put a huge difference on the population. And like I said, with the raids from ICE, and the Democrats are to blame for these raids, because initially when Trump came in, he wanted to round up the gangbangers and, the criminals, the drug traffickers, the human trafficking, the murderers, the bad guys. He wasn't going after people who are working working regardless of what industry they were in. He was after the bad guys and was hoping to get the self-deportation and set the conditions that, let's get the bad guys first and then we'll focus on everybody else. Well, that other dad from Maryland, not Adam Schiff, but the other dad from Maryland, they wanted to protect this wife-beaten gangbanger.
Right.
And kind of force the hand. Okay, if you're going to sneak them out the back door of jails, you're going to hide them. You're going to, we got 700% attack on ICE, who are law enforcement, at the direction of Democrats. Not even Democrats. I don't even want to scully the name of Democrat, because there are a lot of great ones out there, good people in history. These are socialist liberals, not even Democrats. But anyhow, so what they did was they forced Trump's hand. Okay, fine. You're going to hide the bad guys. We're just going to put out a big net, and who we scoop up is who we scoop up. Sorry, this isn't the way he wanted it.
Yeah.
It's not the way I want it.
It sends an important message. I mean, everybody's got the idea that they're here illegally. First of all, we're hearing even, what's his name? Senator Padilla was saying oh no, this is no good because we need people to do the gardening and work at Home Depot in the parking lot. And it's wait a minute, man.
That's disgusting. And
it is. They want to create this slave class of people
they're serfs, because they're not really owned. They're just kept. So it's like a serf class, the servant class. And I'm going to go ahead and tell you something. This is very personal to me. When I was little, teenager, my dad managed a resort, and my one of my brothers was the head chef. Dad gave me an option: either you work in the kitchen cleaning squid, which I refused. That's a disgusting job, even if you are a teenage girl. Cleaning squid, that would have been my job, because seafood, right? And calamari, cleaning the squid. Or you could work with the maids. Now, most of the maids at this time, this is in the late 70s, they were all illegal aliens. Nicest ladies in the world. And nobody spoke English. But you know what? I learned something. I learned how to work. I worked with these ladies who were supporting their families. They didn't speak a word of English. But you know what? I cleaned rooms with them. I had no special treatment. They would show me what to do because they couldn't really speak to me. I didn't speak Spanish and they didn't speak English. And I didn't have rubber gloves or a scrub brush for cleaning toilets. I did it with a rag. My nails
Oh,
never looked so good. But you know what? I learned how to work and to take pride in the work that I was doing. And like it was a summer job, and it was just this group of ladies who didn't treat me special. I did the same job they did. And it taught me that people who work deserve dignity, regardless of who they are or what that job is. And so when they start talking about people and belittling them, people who clean our rooms, well, I cleaned rooms and I did it with people who did it for a living, not because they were just a kid. People who mow lawns and work in agriculture and all that, those people deserve respect, not to be the serf class to a bunch of liberals. Now, in Congress, what I would like to see is work visas, because that labor is needed. And people who want to stay here, there should be a way, maybe it's serving in the military, to earn your citizenship. There are things that we can do that doesn't have to be this drama with ICE. I was a kid, and my parents didn't always make the right decisions. A lot of times we were homeless, and kids are stuck living the reality of the bad decisions that adults make.
right.
So we just saw recently a story about a guy from Istanbul. His parents were here on a temporary visa. The visa expired. They stayed. He hadn't been in Istanbul since he was 3 years old. He spoke English, no accent, married, has kids, had been going through the naturalization process, had an immigration lawyer, checked in every month like he was supposed to. And at his last check-in, he was rounded up. And, I don't like to live by exceptions, but when you start thinking about this, for all intents purposes, this man was living as a U.S. citizen. And he was doing the right thing. He was doing the check-in and that sort of thing. But the Democrats left the administration with no options and no exceptions. You have to round everybody up because you're protecting, the Maryland dad.
Right.
So on that one, I do not want to see amnesty. I do not want to see blanket citizenship. They tricked Ronald Reagan with that one. I was a kid then, but I remember it and have studied it since. They really sucker punched Ronald Reagan with that one. And so that's not what our country is. But there are changes that we can make. But first thing we have to do, we had to secure our border. That's underway. We need to know who's here.
Yeah.
And they should not be counted as, people that are voting here. I know in California, I'm going to tell you, one of the things that really got me with the last redistricting is the redistricting committee came up with this brilliant scheme. If, let's say, Folsom Prison, which is in Sacramento County, if you have 3,000 inmates in Folsom Prison, we are not going to count them in Sacramento County as residents, even though that's where they're living. They don't have a choice of living anywhere else.
Right. They can count Johnny Cash for Folsom
exactly.
Prison.
But what they did was they said, based on their last known residence before their conviction, is where they included those people to be counted. And they did that in all of the prisons across California.
Wow.
So, Oakland got and other areas, they got a big boost. San Quentin, didn't matter where you were in a California prison. It's where you were living at the time that you were convicted is where they put your count.
Yeah. But you raise an interesting point, Christine, because basically Democrats have been so lawless for so long, whether it's got to do with immigration or even drug enforcement or whatever it is, it swings the pendulum all the way to the other way. And so now Trump has announced this is in the New York Times today or yesterday, that he's directing the military to target foreign drug cartels. And I think he's named them as terrorist organizations so that we can expand the power of the military and intelligence agencies to target these things. And I mean, this is going to raise the ire of Democrats as well, because anything that Trump does will do that, right?
Yes.
But people are dying.
No, my own daughter died because of the drugs trafficked across the border.
Oh my God, I didn't know
that. May 13th, 2022.
So
I'm all for this, and I'll never know who the criminal was that trafficked those drugs across the border, but I hope they fry. I hope Trump gets them.
I think a lot of families have been touched by this, but
yes.
I mean, this is an important issue. I mean, if there was, look, it's happening across a spectrum of crimes. We see people, violent criminals being released, and that woman in Cincinnati was beaten up on the street, and it just, they're coddling criminals, putting innocent people like your daughter and other victims of crime at risk. It really, we need to get things back in shape. We're in such a bad state here.
Crime is, all forms of crime are big money makers. So I was at an event, and there were several district attorneys from around the state at this event. And I was talking to a couple of them, and I was talking about all the missing children, 325,000 undocumented children. They all cried, especially, Ami Berra, the guy I'm running, about, these undocumented children crossing the border. They can't even get into a PG-13 movie, and they're getting across the border. So that's a whole nother thing. But I asked one of the DAs, I said, where are they? Where do you think they are? You're prosecuting these crimes the best that you can, because remember, crime is legal in California.
Right.
In spite of Prop 36 that just passed, they're trying to get around it and defunding it and all that other nonsense. But she said, Chris, anytime there's a big sporting event or a concert, a lot of times the hotels are filled up. All these rooms are purchased, and those kids are there waiting to be sold to the highest bidder. And, after football, baseball, concert, and they move them around to where these big events are, big conferences. And when they use them up, they end up on farms or factories or even worse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's just so many reasons
it's
why.
Too much.
It is. There's so many reasons why we need sensible candidates like you in Congress. I really do hope that people will visit bishforcongress.com and also follow Christine on X at Bish for Congress. So, Christine, what do we anticipate is going to happen next? Just taking you back to our initial story here with Adam Schiff. Any idea exactly what the next step is going to be here?
Okay, so some people will be upset about what I predict as the next steps. One, we're not going to get Adam Schiff kicked out of the Senate anytime soon. That's just the reality of it. The grand jury has to go through the process. And quite frankly, in California, we don't want him kicked out right now. What we want is for Senator Thune, so everybody listening, here's your homework assignment for next week. Email, call, text, get on social media. Senator Thune needs to take away Adam Schiff's committee assignments. Remember, he's on the Judiciary Committee while he's under investigation by a grand jury, a U.S. grand jury. Hello, he can't be on this committee, guys. Come on. So we need Senator Thune, who runs the Senate. He's the leader. You need to remove Adam Schiff from his committee assignments, particularly Judiciary. The next thing is because
he could influence The judiciary.
Well, he's influenced the judiciary and judges, and we don't know what access he'll have, right, with the Department of Justice and this pending
Oh,
investigation that's going to happen. So, sorry, Schiff, you need to go. Here's the next thing, is because we know Schiff's not only involved in the mortgage fraud, but also this Russia hoax and
right.
communication with foreign governments who were going after the president, and anybody who was friends with him or even knew him. Schiff needs his security clearance taken away.
Oh, I
This
agree.
guy needs to be a lame duck with nothing else to do but pick out his jumpsuit and hopefully cut a deal and save his wife uh, from suffering his same fate. The guy had a decent bone, which right now I don't see any indications of that. But he would be finding a way to minimize the damage to his family. But this is what we need them to do. But what I expect is they've got to get the subpoenas. That's going to take time. There's going to be a whole lot of witnesses called in. I do fully expect to be one of the people called in, because it was my work that triggered all this. And I have no confirmation of that. I haven't received any subpoenas or gag orders, and that very well could be in the works, given the nature of the data I put together. So, I'm very conscious of that. I've already found an attorney to work with me. Depending on how things go, I may or may not need whistleblower protection. We'll
Don't
have to
use
see
Mark
where
Zaid.
everything. What's that?
Do not use Mark Zaid. He claims to be a whistleblower attorney, but I think he's a lawfare trap.
Yeah, I've already got someone that I trust.
Good.
Prepared to someone that I trust that I know will have my back. How's that?
Good.
So we're good there. Prepared to pull that card. This isn't going to go quick. And the truth is, in California, if Adam Schiff were to be kicked out or resign, the governor of California, Gavin
Oh, what a
Newsom,
point.
will have the ability to appoint the replacement.
Not good.
Okay, so right now, people, I know what you think you want. You want him kicked out. No, we want him neutered until the election, and then hopefully it's a Steve Hilton. There's a lot of Republicans running. Right now, he's the lead guy. I'm friends with several of the people running for governor: Leo Zaki, David Serpa, Daniel Mercury. A lot of good people that are running, and I would be honored for any of those people to serve as the next governor, Republican governor of California. Right now, Steve Hilton is in the lead, and hopefully, if he wins, he'll have a place in his administration for all of these amazing patriots that are stepping up. Like I said, I have a great deal of respect for, like I said, David Serpa, Daniel Mercury, Leo Zaki. All of them have different strengths, and all people I am proud to say that I've had a chance to get to know them and trust them.
It's good to hear. So,
yeah,
I don't know if this is within, I know you're in Sacramento and this is way south, but any news on what's going on with Pacific Palisades?
Last time I was down there, it was a couple months ago, because I'm also a real estate agent. I had a client who wanted to buy property in Malibu. So I was going down there to look, and got turned around by the National Guard that was still guarding the properties.
Wow.
And oh yeah, that was a treat. And contractors, if they had a contract, could get in. Otherwise, you had to prove that you were a homeowner. Now we've got the legislature in California, up here in Sacramento. They're trying to eminent domain a lot of those burned out lots because they want to build projects on the beach.
That's crazy.
Down Pacific Palisades. It's just a land grab. This is something we've gotten used to in California. And it's demoralizing. It gets to you. Just, a couple miles from my house, we've got 30 units going in next to a grocery store right in the middle of single family neighborhoods next to the park. And we have projects very similar to those that are in New York and New Jersey. Remember all the ones that they tore down?
Yeah.
Um, that kind of stuff going on, and they're just dropping it in our neighborhoods.
Why do they
It's
want to do that?
so they can redistrict and put a bunch of illegals and
Oh.
low income people and you know.
But it's like Venice Beach. Just even in the time since I left California, it's become like a filthy tent city where it used to be
Right there
super
on the ocean.
Yeah.
Right. Well, how do you drive people out? How do you drive workers out?
Right.
How do you take over? Look what's happened in New York. You can't walk through New York. Look at all
Right.
those stores are closed.
Yeah.
Why would you want one of those penthouses on the beach so you could look at the trash and, as that beautiful ocean breeze comes in and picks up the stench of human waste,
Burning
you
garbage.
can't even open your windows.
It's crazy. I mean, it really does
Well,
seem
they
like
want it this way.
they want it this way. They want to destroy
They
the
want
country.
control. Those people, they're not thinking about voting. They're not thinking about investing. They
Right.
just, want their EPT card, their food stamp card, free drugs. Will give you clean needles so you can pack one away in case you lose the dirty one you keep using.
Right.
And, those people are not a problem for them. That's their power base because they're not voting. They don't have an address. So somebody can vote for them.
It's terrible
Those
policy.
blacked out people don't have ID and probably don't even know their name. They could look in a mirror and not pick themselves up in a lineup.
Yeah. There was recently a story here in New York that they were doing something with giving people free needles, and there were junkies hanging out in Washington Square Park. They had a story yesterday about just people having sex in the middle of the street. I mean, it's just ultimate chaos. It's the opposite of what we want.
It's like that here in Sacramento. We've got the meth-mobile driving around. It's all pink with an ice cream truck with
Giving out drug
butterflies
paraphernalia.
and rainbows on it. I call it the meth-mobile. I don't know what they call it. But it's got rainbow stickers and butterflies and everything. And then on the menu where you would normally see, Otter Pops and, ice cream sandwiches or
SpongeBob.
whatever. No,
Yeah.
it's a whole paraphernalia,
Crazy.
Do you need some Brillo or steel wool for your meth pipe? It's kind of deceptive.
It's terrible. Well, Christine, I think it's important that people understand what you stand for and that people follow you on social media, and more importantly, that they follow and support the campaign Bish for Congress on X, and it's bishforcongress.com. Even people who aren't in the district where you're running can support the campaign. They can come to the website and help spread the word around, donate to the campaign, let people know you've been doing tremendous work identifying Adam Schiff. Anything else you want to discuss before we wrap up today?
Yeah, I want to just let your listeners know, you don't have to have the ability to vote for me to help out. And so we had volunteers from Alabama, a bunch of ladies that volunteered. They made phone calls for me. I had another group out of New York, all over where people were coming together to help get me to Congress. Donors, I've had donors from California, New York, New Jersey, Texas, Utah, Oklahoma, you name it. People who were pitching in on the campaign. Because even though I'm running for Congress in California, I am one of the votes that will vote on subjects that affect the entire country. So wherever you are, my vote makes a difference. And who I align myself with, the legislation that I put up in Washington, D.C. will affect everyone. And if you have learned nothing else about me in these interviews, I don't take anybody's shit.
I love that.
And I
about
don't
you.
care what your party is, what your ethnic background is. I know right from wrong, and I know how to get to the bottom to ask questions. And I have absolutely no tolerance for criminals who are supposed to be servants, regardless of the party. Because if you're a Republican and George Santos, and you're doing things wrong, I'm going to call you out. There is no
Tom, tell
room.
us.
Yeah, I am loyal to the principles of my party, not some of the bad actors that may or may not be in it. And the same with Democrats. I had a man, I was talking to him, and he says, well, you don't want to talk to me. I'm a Democrat. And I said, well, are you a JFK Democrat or an AOC Democrat? There is a
I like
big
that.
difference.
There
you know,
is.
and you got to put it in context. There are a lot of people in the Democrat Party that are not these, socialist politicians.
Right.
It could be a family thing, and think about it. Even one of our heroes right now with Maha, he's a lifelong Democrat.
Yeah.
And
RFK.
has a backing of a lot of Republicans, enough that Donald Trump put him in the administration. Tulsi Gabbard.
Right. Good
People have
point.
mixed emotions, but you know what? She's doing the right thing. So when we before we start labeling people, right?
Right.
Whatever box we can put you in so we can control you, it's just using common sense and doing what's right, not just following a party line, because not everybody all the cream that rises to the top is fresh. Sometimes it's spoiled.
I think people are learning a lot more about politics and just the integration of media and politics, where we can see that the Washington Post and NBC are upset that Tulsi Gabbard is overriding CIA objections, but she's hopefully, getting this information out. Everybody wants to see the Russiagate criminals, which our buddy Adam Schiff is at the top of the heap on that. We want to see him prosecuted.
Yes,
Is what people
we
want
do.
to see.
Well,
So.
you know what we want? We want to see him get a fair trial.
Right. Absolutely. No.
Let the race
Prosecuted.
begin. Take your
Yes.
chances, bud. Just come clean. Make it easy on all of us. But I don't think he's going to do that. So what I am going to say, because I know we're wrapping up, is I've done this. It took 4 years, not because it took 4 years, but because I'm doing this in my spare time. And sometimes more than my spare time. There's a lot of detail in the work that I do. And when I'm elected to Congress, I'm going to have a full staff. So we'll be able to do the people's work, and that'll be my full-time job.
You're an Aries.
But in the meantime, I could really use your donations to help me out with the campaign. You can go to bishforcongress.com and you can donate online. You can find me on WinRed. I believe my address is on there. If you need to mail a check, there's lots of ways. There's a link on all my social media, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, where you can donate and help me out. I expect to have some expenses coming up once the grand jury is running. They're supposed to cover a lot of my expenses, but I don't know if they're going to cover my lawyer and security until I get whistleblower status.
Huh.
So with that, well, there's a lot going on here. And let's face it, Adam Schiff took down Donald Trump. This is one powerful bad dude. And I am one little lady in Sacramento, California, who picked a fight with the boogeyman.
That he is. Well, Christine, thank you for joining me again today. At Bish for Congress, bishforcongress.com. Everybody should go and support Christine. I can't thank you enough for joining me today. Don't forget to follow me on X, everybody, at JG_CSTT, and you can sponsor Crowdsource the Truth by going to crowdsourcethetruth.substack.com or subscribestar.com or patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. We will be in touch with you, Christine, and we'll see what happens as Eagle Ed Martin goes after Adam Schiff. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a great day.